I have built my entire business on one thing: helping founders and companies generate leads through podcasts. And I still tell every single one of them, do not start your own show. Because the founders who do usually come back to me 6 months later and they still have 12 listeners or some other ridiculously low number. That is why I wanted to make this video, to explain why starting a show is the wrong call if you want to build authority fast, and what you should do instead if you're looking to start generating leads by leveraging podcasts, even in as little as 30 days. Let's get into it. Starting your own podcast means beginning with 0 listeners and publishing for months before your audience is ever big enough to matter. A new show has no reach until you've earned it, and getting to numbers that actually do anything for the business takes years in most cases. You're also spending hours every week on guest outreach, prep calls, recording, and editing just to keep the show running. And while you're managing all of that, your ideal customers are already subscribed to shows they've trusted for years. Even if listeners do find your show, converting them into actual leads takes months on months of consistent listening. A listener who's enjoying your show isn't going to do anything for your business until they've heard you enough times to actually trust you. And building that consistency through a brand new show with no track record takes months on months of listening. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to completely burst your bubble when it comes to having your own podcast, but these things are worth thinking through before you commit to starting one, especially if building authority in your industry is the main goal. What guesting on established shows does for you. So what I recommend you to do instead of starting your own podcast is to start guesting on other existing shows. This puts you in front of an audience that someone else spent years building. The host has already done the work of earning listening trust, and that credibility transfers to you the moment they introduce you. Starting your own show is like deciding to get fit by buying your own gym, when you can just walk into one that already exists and get to work out. That is what guesting on other podcasts is. Another thing is that guesting starts producing results immediately, while a new show takes a lot of time to even get any listeners. With a good outreach system, getting like 2 or 3 confirmed bookings in your first month is completely realistic. If you start your own show in that same time frame, it would still probably be in the single digits on downloads, if even that. Also, each appearance becomes a permanent asset that works for you. An episode stays lives on the host feed indefinitely and keeps getting discovered by new listeners long after the recording date. So a single appearance compounds its reach over time. And unlike a social post that dies in a week, a podcast episode keeps getting discovered long after it goes live. Now, real quick, if you aren't sure how to actually land bookings, my Podstar community is completely free to join. That is where I keep all the templates, AI prompts, and toolkits that make this work. And the link will be right below this video. Now, let me share with you why podcast guesting is the future. There's also another layer to all of this, which I haven't touched on yet. AI made content creation cheap and scalable, which flooded every feed and made trust harder to earn through content alone. Short-form content now competes with an endless scroll of AI-generated posts, and the average piece of social content dies in 7 to 14 days. And on most platforms, the algorithm decides who sees your content, so the audience you build there is never really yours. Podcast appearance works against all of that because the listeners chose to be there. An average podcast episode runs 45 minutes with an 85% completion rate, which is 38 minutes of uninterrupted attention from someone who actively pressed play. It's not the algorithm that decides whether they see it, and nothing else competes for their attention while they listen. And the audience you reach through guessing is already primed to act. Signal Hill Insights tracked over 24,000 listeners and found that 83% of senior executive listens to podcasts every week, and they're twice as likely as the average listeners to hit 5 or more hours of podcasts per week, which means that decision makers your business needs to reach are already tuned in. And Acast 2025 podcast poll study found that 67% of podcast listeners have made purchase based on a podcast recommendation. So you're talking to an audience that already has a track record of buying from the content they consume. Now, if you just want to start getting booked on podcasts and have everything taken care of for you, we handle the outreach, the show research, the scheduling, all of it, and we guarantee 3 confirmed bookings a month. The link for that will be right below this video. But if you want to do it yourself, you can participate in my Podstar Challenge. Over 30 days, I'll walk you through the exact systems I use to get booked. You learn how to find the right shows, build a speaker profile that converts, and write outreach that gets you on shows. If you get booked on 3 podcasts in those 30 days, you win all your money back. So again, both of those options are linked in the description below. And if you want to learn how to use Claude Cowork to speed up the process of getting booked on podcasts, then check out this video next.